This is Brock Lawley. As an Air Force veteran, I want to tell you about a heartbreaking story that you might not be aware of. A guy named Robert Frenier. He has 3 graduate degrees. He has a 30-year career in the U.S. military, which included a position as an aide to Pentagon brass. So it might be a little bit of a surprise to you to find out that Robert is one of many, far too many veterans living on the street without work, without a prosperous future. We're talking about a guy who served in several combat zones, a guy who was in the Pentagon when it got hit by terrorists on September 11th. You might ask yourself, how does a guy with a resume like this not find a job? It happens more often than you might think. This guy spends 6 hours a day filling out applications at a computer in a public library with no luck. And you might think this is a rarity, but sadly it's not. Drowning in college tuition debt for his 2 sons, he just got swallowed up. Now, I hear the story and I can't help but be beet red with frustration. This administration has completely abandoned our armed forces. We have people on waiting lists for veteran benefits 2 years out. We have thousands of veterans looking for work in this Sahara Desert economy. Just this last week, former Secretary of Defense Gates put out a book exposing this administration's attitude towards men and women wearing a uniform. And it is bleak. This is a quote from Gates. This president doesn't believe in his own strategy. You can say what you will about Bush. His heart was in it. And with this mentality, when you don't believe in the mission and you don't have any actual plans for victory, the fact that this president deployed 30,000 troops to Afghanistan with no dedication to the mission is deplorable. I bet your alphabet soup media forgot to tell you that. Did you know that this administration has threatened to veto any DoD spending bill that does not significantly reduce military pay raises and increase the healthcare cost to our servicemen and women? We have a law that protects military pay from falling below the rate of inflation. Here's a quote from Robert Hale, Reserve Forces Policy Board, September 5th. I think we will go after military compensation aggressively. The meat cleaver military spending approach of this administration is shameful. Now, I'm a small government guy. I love the idea of taking a common sense look at this Jabba the Hutt government, putting it on a slim fast program. But as we're the country now with well over 100 weeks of straight unemployment, millions and millions of Americans on food stamps, Obama phone huts on every street corner in our cities, do we really need to be slicing and dicing the pay of our military personnel? After 3 huge cuts to our military in 4 years, it's time, in my humble opinion, the Obama administration look elsewhere for quote-unquote savings. How about the IRS, for example? 20,000 new employees at the IRS. And come April, they're going to be hard on the American heels. Under the reign of Barack Obama, he has gut military programs, the capabilities and readiness of our forces, leaving our commanders with a hollow force unable to provide for the global needs of the U.S. and our allies. And he's cut more than 100,000 military personnel from the ranks, drastically reduced the size of our naval fleet, cut hundreds of Air Force combat aircraft, and here's the worst of all, and I can attest to this having served, devastating cuts in our training programs and in our equipment repair. Within the arena of war, that translates into lives lost. If Barack Obama is looking to drop a few pounds from the federal gut, I have a few suggestions for him. How about how we spent $200 million on a reality television show in India? How about how we spent $150,000 to fund a Chinese study on pig fecal matter? How about how the federal government spent $320,000 to construct a robot squirrel to answer the questions of why rattlesnakes rarely attack squirrels that wag their tails? How about how we spent $950,000 to learn that male fruit flies overwhelmingly prefer younger female fruit flies over their older fruit fly counterpart? You could have discovered that at the local barbershop for a wooden nickel. How about this one? We spent $14 million, and we do this annually, in 2 catfish inspection programs that duplicate each other. We spent $2.5 billion on 18 overlapping programs for food and nutrition assistance. We spent $15 billion on 679 separate green gone wild renewable energy scams. We spend $450,000 annually to pay an attendant to push buttons on a fully automated Capitol Hill elevator system for our representatives and senators. Let them eat cake, ladies and gentlemen. I think you can get your pound of flesh somewhere else, Mr. President. And it certainly shouldn't befall men and women who have taken shrapnel for this country. My name is Brock Lawley. Thank you for listening.